You've closed your eyes. You've quieted the room. You've begun to relax into that drowsy state Neville spoke of so often. And then you pause. What exactly am I supposed to be seeing right now? Am I watching myself from the outside like a character in a movie? Or am I looking out through my own eyes, living it from within? And what should the scene even contain? Should I see everything, or just a moment? Should it be elaborate or simple? Should it be elaborate or simple? These questions stop so many of you before you've even begun. You're ready to do the work. You're willing to enter the silence. But you're uncertain about what to actually see during SATS. And that uncertainty keeps you hovering at the threshold instead of stepping through. I want to tell you plainly, Neville answered this. He answered it clearly, repeatedly, and with such precision that once you understand it, you'll never be confused again. The confusion doesn't come from a lack of information. It comes from overthinking what is meant to be natural. Tonight, we're going to dissolve that confusion entirely. We're going to settle the question of first person versus third person once and for all. We're going to walk through real examples of effective scenes for different kinds of desires. And by the end of this, you won't be asking what to see. You'll know. And you'll do it. Welcome. If this is your first time here, this is a channel dedicated entirely to the teachings of Neville Goddard, one of the most profound spiritual teachers of the 20th century. We gather here not to talk about manifesting as though it were a technique you perform on a distant universe, but to explore the truth that consciousness is the only reality, and that your imagination is the very creative power men have called God. In this episode, we're answering one of the most common and practical questions students of Neville face. What do you actually see during SATS? What is the content of the imaginal act that produces your desire in the outer world? Neville gave us clear guidance on this. He demonstrated it in his own life and in the lives of thousands who wrote to him with their successes. And today we're going to make it so simple and so vivid that you'll be able to enter into your scene tonight with total confidence. Let's begin. The very first thing you must understand is this. SATS is not visualization for the sake of seeing pictures. It is not a mental exercise designed to impress the universe or send out a signal. SATS, the state akin to sleep, is the act of assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled so completely that your inner self accepts it as true. The scene you construct is simply the vehicle by which you induce that feeling. Neville said again and again that it is not the scene itself that does the work. It is the feeling of reality that the scene evokes. This is why two people can imagine the same scene, one successfully and one unsuccessfully. The difference is not in what they saw. It is in whether they felt it real. So before we even discuss what to see, let us anchor ourselves in why we see anything at all. You imagine a scene because a scene implies a state. If you were truly the person you desire to be, if you truly had what you now want, certain things would be true. You would see certain sights. You would hear certain words. You would touch certain objects. The scene is the evidence, compressed into a single moment, that your desire is already fulfilled. When you loop that scene in your mind as you drift into sleep, you are not wishing, you are not hoping, you are remembering. You are feeling yourself into the state that would be yours if your desire were already a fact. And consciousness, being the only reality, hardens that inner fact into outer circumstance. Now, with that foundation, let's address the question that stops so many of you. Should I see the scene from the first person, as though I am looking out through my own eyes? Or should I see it in the third person, as though I am watching myself from the outside? Neville's answer was unambiguous. He said, and I am paraphrasing his words from multiple lectures, that the imaginal act must be in the first person. You must see the world from the perspective of the person who has already realized the desire. You must look out through your own eyes. You must feel your own hands touching what you would touch. You must hear what you would hear as though you are the one hearing it. Why? Because you are not trying to create a picture of yourself. You are trying to become the person for whom this is true. If you watch yourself from the outside, you are still the observer. You are still separate from the state. But if you are within the scene, looking out, feeling it from the inside, then you are identified with the state. You are it. And that identification is what shifts you from wishing to being. Let me give you an example that Neville himself used many times. Suppose you desire to travel to a distant country, let's say Paris. You could imagine yourself standing outside the Eiffel Tower, watching a version of yourself looking up at it, smiling, happy to be there. That is third person. And while that might produce a pleasant daydream, it will not produce the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Why? Because in that scene, you are still here, watching yourself there. You have not moved. But if you imagine yourself standing on the Champ de Mars, and you tilt your head back, and you see the iron lattice of the Eiffel Tower rising above you, and you feel the cool breeze on your face, and you hear French being spoken around you, and you think to yourself, I'm really here, then you are in the first person. You are there. Your consciousness has moved, and where your consciousness moves, your world follows. Neville was so insistent on this point because he understood that imagination is not a tool you use. It is the place you occupy. To imagine in the first person is to occupy the state. To imagine in the third person is to observe the state, and observation without participation produces nothing. Now, I know some of you have heard teachings that suggest third person can work, or that it doesn't matter as long as you feel it. And I will tell you this. If you can generate the feeling of the wish fulfilled while watching yourself from the outside, then you have already internalized the state, and the perspective becomes secondary. But for most, third person keeps them at a distance. It keeps them as the watcher, the wanter, the one who is not yet that. First person collapses the gap. First person is assumption. And assumption, Neville told us, though false when assumed, if persisted in, hardens into fact. Let me share a brief testimony that illustrates this perfectly. A woman wrote to Neville saying she had tried for weeks to imagine herself in a new home. She would picture the house from the outside, see herself walking in, see herself sitting in the living room. She saw it all very clearly, but nothing happened. She grew frustrated. Then she attended one of Neville's lectures and heard him say, "You must be in the scene, not watching it." That night she changed her approach. She lay down in bed, closed her eyes, and imagined that she was already in the new home. She did not see the house. She saw what she would see if she were lying in bed in that house. She imagined the ceiling above her, different from the one she currently saw. She imagined the feel of the unfamiliar wall beside her as she reached out her hand in the dark. She imagined the silence of a different neighborhood. She felt herself there, and she fell asleep in that feeling. She felt herself there, and she fell asleep in that feeling. Within a month, a series of events unfolded, entirely unexpected, and she moved into a home that matched her inner dwelling place. The shift from third person to first person was the shift from hoping to inhabiting, and inhabiting is what creates. So let us settle this now, once and for all. See your scene from the first person. Look out through your own eyes. Feel it from within. Be the one to whom it is happening, not the one watching it happen. This is not a rule for the sake of rules. This is the natural mechanics of consciousness. You are not creating a reality outside of you. You are shifting the reality you are, and you shift it by occupying it in imagination until imagination and reality are one. Now, let's go deeper into the second essential question. What should the content of the scene actually be? What should you see, hear, and feel within that first-person perspective? Neville gave us a principle so simple that it's often overlooked. He said the scene should be an event which implies the fulfillment of your desire. It should be a short, condensed act that could only happen if your desire were already true. Notice he did not say the scene should be the desire itself. He said it should imply the desire. This is crucial. You are not imagining the wish. You are imagining the evidence of the wish fulfilled. You are imagining the evidence of the wish fulfilled. You are imagining the evidence, the moment that comes because the thing is already done. Let's take a very common desire, a specific person returning to you, reconciliation, love renewed. Many of you, when you imagine, try to see the whole relationship. You try to imagine days and weeks of happiness. You try to see conversations and dates and moments of affection all strung together, and then you feel overwhelmed. You don't know where to start. The images blur together. You lose focus. You wonder if you're doing it right. Neville would tell you, do not imagine the relationship. Imagine a single moment that implies the relationship is restored. What would that moment be? Perhaps it is lying in bed at night, and you feel the warmth of their body beside you, and you hear their breathing, steady and close, and you know without question that they are yours and you are theirs. That is all. 3 seconds. A moment. But that moment could not exist unless everything else were already true. That moment implies reconciliation. It implies love. It implies the whole desire. It implies the whole desire. It implies the whole. And because it implies it, assuming that moment as real brings the whole structure of events into being. Or let's say you desire a new job, a specific position, a career change. You could try to imagine your first day, your commute, your new goals, your new desk, every detail of every hour. Or you could choose one simple act that implies you already have the position. Perhaps you imagine sitting at your desk and you see your name on a placard, and you pick up a business card with your new title printed on it, and you feel the texture of the card between your fingers, and you smile to yourself because you know this is yours. That's the scene. 4 seconds. But it implies everything. It implies you were hired. It implies you were hired. It implies you were tired. It implies you belong there. And when you loop that scene as you fall asleep, feeling it real, your subconscious accepts the implication as fact, and facts externalize. Neville often used the example of a woman who desired marriage to a specific man. She did not imagine the wedding, though she could have. She did not imagine the wedding, though she could have. She did not imagine the proposal. She imagined something even simpler. She imagined lying in bed and feeling a wedding ring on her finger, and she twisted it gently, feeling the metal band, and she felt the satisfaction of knowing she was married. That was her scene. She did it night after night, and the man, who had shown no prior intention of marriage, proposed within weeks. The scene was not the wedding. The scene was not even romantic. It was tactile, simple, physical, but it implied the end. And the end, when assumed, creates the means. What makes a scene effective is not complexity. It is compression. You want to take the entire wish and condense it into a moment so specific, so sensory, so brief, that your mind can loop it without effort and saturate it with feeling. Neville said the scene should be short, no more than 3 to 5 seconds if possible. Why? Because a short scene can be repeated, and repetition with feeling is what impresses the subconscious. If your scene is too long, you will not be able to hold the feeling through it. You will start thinking about what comes next. You will narrate instead of experience. But a short scene done over and over becomes hypnotic. It lulls you. It absorbs you. And you fall asleep inside it. That is the goal, to fall asleep inside it. That is the goal, to fall asleep inside the state of the wish fulfilled. Now let's address another common stumbling block. Should the scene be exactly what you want, or should it be something related to it? Neville's answer is that it should always imply the wish fulfilled, but it does not need to be literal. In fact, sometimes the best scenes are not the thing itself, but the reaction to the thing. Let me give you an example. Suppose you desire financial freedom, abundance, wealth. You could imagine stacks of money. You could imagine a bank statement, but those images might feel abstract. They might not stir feeling. Instead, imagine a moment that proves to you that you are wealthy. Perhaps you are shopping for something you have always wanted but could never afford, and you hand over your card without a flicker of concern, and you feel the calm assurance that money is no longer an issue. Or perhaps you receive a phone call from your accountant congratulating you on a successful investment, and you hear their words and you feel the quiet thrill of knowing you are secure. Those scenes do not show you money. They show you the feeling of having money, and it is the feeling that creates. Neville once told a story about a man who wanted to be free of debt. The man did not imagine paying off his debts. He imagined his accountant calling him and saying, "You don't owe a cent. Everything is clear." He heard those words. He felt the relief. He looped that 5-second conversation in his mind. And within months, an unexpected inheritance cleared every debt. The man did not dictate how it would happen. He only assumed the end. The end. The scene implied freedom. Consciousness provided the means. So when you construct your scene, ask yourself, what would I see, hear, or feel if this desire were already complete? Not what do I want, but what would be true if I already had it? The answer to that question is your scene. And once you have it, you do not need a backup scene. You do not need a backup scene. You do not need a backup scene. You do not need a variety. You need one clear, simple, sensory-rich moment experienced from the first person, implying the wish fulfilled. and you need to do it every night until it feels more real than your current facts. Let me give you more examples across different categories of desire so that you can see the pattern clearly. If you desire health, you do not need to imagine your whole body healed in abstract light. You imagine a moment that proves you are well. Perhaps you are running up a flight of stairs, effortlessly, breathing easily, and you feel your strength. Perhaps you are at a doctor's office and you hear the words, "Everything looks perfect." Perhaps you simply wake up in your imaginal scene and stretch your body and feel no pain, only vitality. Choose one moment, make it sensory, make it first person, and loop it. If you desire recognition, fame, or success in your craft, do not imagine vague applause. Imagine a specific moment. Perhaps someone whose opinion you value shakes your hand and says, "I knew you would make it." Perhaps you are holding an award, feeling its weight. Perhaps you are reading a message from someone saying your work changed their life. The moment should give you a feeling. The moment should give you a feeling. The feeling should be, "It is done." If you desire reconciliation with a family member, imagine embracing them, feeling their arms around you, hearing them say, "I'm so glad we're okay now." If you desire to live in a new city, imagine looking out a window at a view only that city could provide, and you think, "I live here now." If you desire a specific opportunity, imagine receiving the email or the phone call confirming it, and you read the words or hear the voice, and you know it's real. Do you see the pattern? The scene is never the desire in abstract. It is always the evidence. It is always the moment after. It is always implying, not declaring, and it is always first person, sensory, brief, and repeatable. Now let's talk about what to do when the scene doesn't feel real at first. Because this is where many of you falter. You construct your scene. You lie down. You enter the drowsy state. You begin to imagine, and it feels hollow. It feels like pretending. You don't believe it. And you stop. You think, "This isn't working. I don't feel it." Let me tell you what Neville would say to that. Of course it doesn't feel at first. If it felt completely real, it would already be externalized. The purpose of SATS is not to wait until you feel it and then imagine. The purpose is to imagine until you feel it. Feeling follows assumption. You do not assume because you feel. You feel because you assume. This is the great reversal that most people miss. You are not trying to manufacture a feeling and then imagine. You are imagining in order to manufacture the feeling, and you do that through repetition and through sensory vividness. Neville said, "Feel yourself into the state of the wish fulfilled." Notice the verb. Feel yourself into it. You move yourself into that state by the act of imagining. It is not passive. You do not wait to be moved. You move yourself, and you do not wait to be moved. You move yourself, and you do it by making the scene as sensory as possible. If you are imagining a conversation, do not just hear the words. Hear the tone. Hear the tone. Feel the emotion in your chest as you hear them. If you are imagining a touch, feel the temperature, the texture, the pressure. If you are imagining a sight, notice the light, the color, the small details. The more sensory your scene, the more it commands your attention. And the more it commands your attention, the more real it becomes, the more feeling it evokes. And feeling is the secret. Let me give you a practice you can use tonight. When you lie down and enter your scene, do not rush. Do not try to see the whole thing at once. Start with one sense. Let's say you are imagining a congratulatory handshake. Start with the feeling of the hand in yours. Really feel it. The grip, the warmth, the slight movement. Stay with that until it is vivid. Then add another sense. Hear the words being spoken. Hear the person's voice, then add another. See their face, see the smile. Build the scene slowly, sense by sense, until it surrounds you, and then loop it. Feel the hand, hear the words, see the smile, again and again. And as you do, let your body relax. Let your breathing slow. Let the boundary between imagination and reality soften. You are not imagining something outside you. You are entering a state inside you, and that state, assumed and felt, becomes your world. Neville also said that if you find it difficult to feel the scene, add a small action. Movement increases vividness. So if you are imagining lying in a new home, don't just see the room. Reach out your hand and touch the wall. Feel it. If you are imagining a reconciliation, don't just see the person. Embrace them. Feel your arms around them. If you are imagining success, don't just hear the applause. Clap your own hands together in your imagination and feel the impact. Action implies reality, and when you add a small physical act to your scene, even in imagination, it becomes more tangible. It pulls you in. And here is something many overlook. You do not need to imagine perfectly. You do not need to see every detail in high definition. Some of you are naturally visual, some of you are more auditory, some are more feeling-based. Neville himself said he was not a strong visualizer. He often imagined by feeling, by hearing more than by seeing, and it worked perfectly. Why? Because the image is not the thing that creates. The feeling of reality is the thing that creates. So if you can't see the scene clearly, feel it. If you can't feel it tangibly, hear it. Use whatever sense is strongest for you, and trust that consciousness does not require a picture. It requires assumption. An assumption is a knowing, not a seeing. There is a story Neville told about a woman who wanted a piano. She could not visualize at all. She was completely unable to form mental images. So he told her to imagine the feeling of her fingers on the keys, not to see the piano, just to feel the keys. She lay in bed at night and felt her fingers pressing down, felt the smooth ivory, felt the motion of playing. She heard the notes in her mind, and within weeks, a family member offered her a piano for free. She never saw it in her mind, but she felt it, and consciousness responded to the feeling, not the picture. So do not pressure yourself to imagine with cinematic clarity. Imagine with sensory clarity. Make it vivid in whatever way is natural to you, and then persist. Night after night, enter the scene, feel it, loop it, fall asleep in it, and let consciousness do what only consciousness can do. Harden your assumption into fact. Let me now give you very specific scene examples for a variety of desires so that you can model your own. These are not scripts to copy exactly, but templates to show you how a scene should be constructed. First, romantic love. You desire to be in a loving, committed relationship with a specific person. Your scene, you are lying in bed. It is night. You feel the weight and warmth of their body next to you. You hear their steady breathing. You reach over and place your hand on their shoulder, feeling their skin. You think to yourself or whisper aloud in imagination, "I'm so grateful you're here." You feel peace. You feel love. That's the scene. 3 seconds. Loop it. First person. Sensory. Implying the relationship is whole and real. Second, financial abundance. You desire freedom from money worries, consistent wealth. Your scene. You are sitting at your kitchen table. You open an envelope. Inside is a check or a statement showing a sum of money that represents security to you. You see the numbers. You feel the paper. You smile and set it down, thinking, it's really happening. You feel relief and satisfaction. That's the scene. Loop it. Third, a new career or job. Your scene. You are at your new desk. You see your name on a plaque or an email signature. You pick up a pen with the company logo on it. You feel the weight of it. You look around and think, this is my office now. You feel pride and calm. Loop it. Fourth, physical healing. You're standing in front of a mirror. You look at your body and you see health. You touch the area that was once ill or painful, and you feel only strength. You take a deep breath and feel your lungs fill completely, easily. You smile and think, I'm completely well. Loop it. Fifth, travel or relocation. You're seen, you are standing in the new place. You see a landmark or a view that is unmistakable. You hear the sounds of that place, the accent, the language, the birds, the traffic. You feel the air, different from where you are now. You think, I live here now, or I'm finally here. Loop it. Sixth, creative or professional recognition. You're seen. You receive a message, an email, a call. You hear or read the words, congratulations, you've been selected. Or, your work has been accepted. Or, we'd love to work with you. You feel excitement rise in your chest. You read it again to make sure it's real. You feel excitement rise in your chest. You read it again to make sure it's real. You feel validated. Loop it. Seventh, reconciliation or forgiveness. You're seen. You are face to face with the cunt to their eyes. You hear them say, I'm sorry, or I've missed you, or you say it and they respond warmly. You feel the tension dissolve. You feel love or relief or peace. Loop it. Do you see now? Each scene is brief. Each is first person. Each implies the end. Each is rich in sensory detail, and each evokes a feeling. That feeling is what you are after. The scene is just the shortest path to that feeling, and once you have the feeling, you sustain it by repetition, and you seal it by falling asleep inside it. Now, let's move into the practical application for tonight. I am going to walk you through the process, step by step, as though you and I are sitting together, and I am guiding you into your first fully realized SATS session. You can do this tonight. In fact, I encourage you to do it tonight. Not tomorrow, not when you feel more ready. Tonight. Because readiness is not a prerequisite. Doing is what makes you ready. First, choose your desire. Be specific. Do not choose 5 desires. Choose one, the one that matters most to you right now. The one that, if fulfilled, would change everything. Write it down in one sentence if that helps you clarify it. But do not imagine the sentence. Imagine the evidence. Second, construct your scene. Ask yourself, if this desire were completely fulfilled right now, what is one short moment I could experience that would prove it to me? What would I see from my own eyes? What would I hear? What would I touch or feel? Get specific. Make it 3 to 5 seconds long, no longer. Write it down if you need to, but then let go of the words. You're going to live it, not recite it. Third, prepare your environment. Tonight, when you are ready for bed, lie down in a comfortable position. You may lie on your back or your side, whichever helps you relax. The goal is to induce a state akin to sleep, that drowsy state between waking and sleeping where the conscious mind softens and the subconscious is most impressionable. Neville said, "You do not need to fall fully asleep during the act, though if you do, that is fine. You simply need to enter that borderland. To help yourself get there, you can focus on your breathing. Breathe slowly and deeply. Let your body grow heavy. Feel yourself sinking into the bed. Some people find it helpful to count backwards from 100 or to repeat a word like peace or sleep until the mind quiets. Do whatever works for you. The key is relaxation and inward focus. Fourth, enter your scene. Once you feel yourself in that drowsy, relaxed state, bring your scene to mind. Do not watch yourself in that drowsy, relaxed state. Bring your scene to mind. Do not watch yourself in it. Be in it. See what you would hear. Feel what you would feel. Start with one sensory detail and let it pull you in. If you're imagining a handshake, feel the hand. If you're imagining lying beside someone, feel their warmth. If you're imagining reading an email, see the words on the screen. Make it as vivid as you can, using your strongest sense. Fifth, loop the scene. Once you have lived through the moment, repeat it. See it again. Feel it again. Hear it again. Do not let your mind wander to what happens next or how it will come about. Stay in the moment. The moment that implies it is done. The moment that implies it is done. The moment, loop it gently without strain. Let it become rhythmic like a lullaby. Let it absorb you. Sixth, sustain the feeling. As you loop the scene, notice the feeling it gives you. Is it relief, gratitude, joy, satisfaction, peace? Whatever it is, that is the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Let that feeling grow. Let it fill your chest. Let it relax your body even further. You are not trying to make yourself feel something. You are letting the scene naturally evoke the feeling, and then you are resting in that feeling. Neville said, the feeling is the secret. This is what he meant. The feeling is the signal to your subconscious that the thing is real, and your subconscious does not argue. It accepts, it impresses, and it externalizes. Seventh, fall asleep in the scene. This is the final and most important step. Do not get up and check your phone. Do not let your mind drift to your problems or your day. Stay in the scene. Keep looping it, gently, until you fall asleep. If you wake in the night, return to it. The goal is that the last thing your conscious mind experiences before sleep is the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Why? Because sleep is when the subconscious is most receptive. Sleep is when impression becomes fixed. Neville called sleep the door to the subconscious. You are walking through that door wearing the state of your wish fulfilled. And what you wear in, you wake up as. Do this every night. Do not do it once and wait for results. Do it until the scene feels natural. Do it until you no longer question whether it will happen. Do it until you know it is done. Neville said, persistence in assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled is the key, not persistence in unknown, persistence in assuming. And assumption is an inner act, repeated until it becomes your inner conviction. Now, I know some of you will try this tonight and feel nothing. You will imagine the scene and think, this is silly, I'm just pretending. And you will be tempted to quit. Do not quit. Neville told a story about a woman who imagined for weeks without feeling a thing. She kept going because she trusted the principle. And one night, without warning, the scene suddenly felt real. It clicked. And the next day, the first sign of her desire appeared in her world. You cannot predict when the feeling will come, but it will come if you persist. And even before it comes, the act of persisting is changing you. You are assuming. And assumption, though it feels like nothing, is everything. If you miss a night, do not punish yourself. Just return to it the next night. If your mind wanders during the scene, gently bring it back. If you fall asleep before looping it enough times, that is fine. You still fell asleep in the state, and that counts. Be gentle with yourself. This is not a performance. This is a practice. And the practice, done with love and trust, will yield fruit. Let's step back now and ask the deeper question. Why does this work? Why does a brief imaginal act, repeated in a drowsy state, produce tangible changes in a physical world? The answer brings us to the very heart of Neville's teaching. Consciousness is the only reality. The world you see, the circumstances you experience, the people you encounter, all of it is your consciousness pushed out. You are not a small self inside a big world. You are the operant power. You are imagination. And imagination, when it assumes something to be true, must externalize it. Why? Because imagination is God, and God does not imagine possibilities. God imagines facts. When you imagine in SATs, you are not wishing, you are decreeing. You are saying, let there be, and there is. Neville often quoted scripture to reveal this truth. Whatsoever you desire, when you pray, believe that you have received it, and you have it. You are saying. Notice the tense. Believe that you have received, not will receive, have received. The assumption that it is already done is the prayer, and that prayer, believed, must be answered. Not because a distant God hears it and decides to grant it, but because you are God and your assumption is the creative act. Paul said, call those things which be not as though they were, and they will be. That is SATs. You call the thing that is not yet visible as though it were already real. And in calling it, in assuming it, in feeling it, you cause it to be. This is not magic. This is law, the law of consciousness, the law that governs all creation, and you are not learning to bend the law. You are learning that you are the law. Neville also said, you are not a man seeking God. You are learning that you are the law. Neville also said, you are not a man seeking God. You are God seeking expression. When you imagine your desire fulfilled, you are not begging. You are not appealing. You are expressing, you are saying, this is who I am. This is the state I occupy. This is my reality. And reality, being nothing but consciousness, conforms. It must. There is no other power. There is no outer world that resists you. There is only your own inner resistance, your own doubt, your own failure to assume. And the moment you assume, truly assume, the outer world moves. So when you do SATS tonight, know that you are not performing a technique. You are exercising your divine function. You are imagining as God imagines. And what God imagines is, there is no delay except the delay of your own acceptance. There is no block except the block of your own disbelief. And even disbelief can be dissolved by persistence, because persistence in assumption eventually becomes conviction, and conviction is faith, and faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. This is why it matters what you see during SATS, not because the image is the state, and the state is your identity, and your identity creates your world. When you see yourself from the first person, you are identifying with the state. When you imagine the evidence, you are assuming the wish fulfilled. And when you fall asleep in that assumption, you are sealing it in consciousness. And consciousness externalizes itself as your world, always, without exception. So let me bring us back to where we began. You clicked on this episode because you wanted to know, what do I actually see during SATs? and now you know. You see a brief, sensory-rich scene that implies your desire is already fulfilled. You see it from the first person, looking out through your own eyes, feeling it from within. You loop it gently as you enter sleep, letting it evoke the feeling of the wish fulfilled. And you persist, night after night, until the inner assumption hardens into outer fact. That is what you see. That is what you do. And that is what creates. You do not need to see everything. You do not need to imagine every detail of the journey. You only need to imagine the end. And the end, assumed, creates the means. Neville said it perfectly. Live in the end, and you will hurt no one. Live in the end, and you will hurt no one. Live in the end, and you will harm no one. Live in the end, and you will harm no one. Live in the end, and you need not concern yourself with the means. The scene is the end, condensed into a moment. And when you live in that moment, in imagination, you are living in the end, and the end is where creation begins. So tonight you will not lie down wondering what to do. You will lie down knowing. You will enter your scene with confidence. You will see from the first person. You will feel it real. You will loop it until you sleep. And you will do it until you sleep. And you will do it again tomorrow night, and the night after, and however many nights it takes until you know, beyond doubt, that it is done. And when you know, you will see it in your world, not because you made it happen, but because it was always going to happen the moment you assumed it. This is the teaching. This is the truth, and it is yours to prove. Neville always said, try it. I say the same to you now. Try it, not half-heartedly, not once. Try it fully, faithfully, persistently. Construct your scene. Enter it tonight. Fall asleep faithfully, persistently. Construct your scene. Enter it tonight. Fall asleep in the wish fulfilled, and watch your world conform to the man or woman you have dared to assume you are. You are a Tata. You are the dreamer of your world. And what you dream in the deep, in the silence, in the state akin to sleep, becomes the facts of your waking life. So dream well, dream well, dream from the end. And let your imagination, which is God in you, do what it has always done. Create. Thank you for being here. Thank you for daring to assume that you are more than you appear to be. You are. And tonight in SATS you will prove it to yourself. Sleep in the wish fulfilled. And tomorrow walk as the person for whom that wish is already fact. The world will catch up. It always does. Good night. And may your imaginal acts bear fruit in ways that thrill you and confirm what you now know. Consciousness is the only reality, and you are it.